What do you think about using the internet to talk to strangers? The internet has been an excellent tool for communication and connection since its inception. I find that it can foster hope or hostility, be it GoFundMe's to help people in need, or sharing art and ideas that inspire or entertain. Hostility can come in the form of trolling in comment sections or saying gamer words in voice chats to really spread that holiday cheer. I personally grew up in what was considered the Wild West days of the internet. Personal vlogs, chat rooms, individual forums, and online gaming with little to no moderation like RuneScape or StarCraft. Nothing like trying to buy a girlfriend for 2000 GP, am I right? I was always talking to people from around the world with different perspectives, customs, and lives about a variety of topics, often for hours at a time. Chatting in forums about everything from fan theories on TV shows to how to fix an old vehicle or relationship advice from third parties that have nothing to do with your relationship. With online gaming consisting of hanging out with people grinding out the same skill, or threatening to do your mom after beating you in a game of StarCraft, there was no shortage of fun to be had. All of this afforded by the fact we can play games with and talk to strangers on the internet. This period was well before a lot of our boilerplate disclaimers, such as Microsoft's, and TOS, or Terms of Service guidelines, to mitigate most of the negative interactions that talking to strangers can result in. It would be foolish to say some of these features aren't necessary to make the net a safer space to function in, though sometimes they seem to make trying to comprehend how to function more complex than it needs to be, at first glance. With websites like Twitch seemingly changing their TOS every 6 months, but keeping the actual language vague enough so as to not reveal what the actual criteria for acceptable behavior is, or YouTube removing comment sections on children's content and content containing children to combat an assortment of, let's say, diabolical behavior, it seems that there's a shift on perspective on who is responsible for what when it comes to interacting with people on the internet, be it the service providers, the websites and companies themselves, or the users behind the screen. Oftentimes, it feels futile to even attempt moderation because people, whether they're trying to be constructive or destructive, will always find ways to circumvent rules or at least troll a bit before being banned. With websites such as YouTube, it becomes increasingly hard to find satisfying moderation tools that don't leave people without fangs, so to speak. For example, muting comment sections while preventing harassment, creepy behavior, and general debauchery also disables supportive communication, public discourse on topics, and real feedback instances of disagreeable content. In the olden times of my use of the internet, in chat rooms on sites like Yahoo, there was always a mix of people shooting the breeze about whatever was on their mind, creepy people, and of course spammers of all sorts. Shout out to the people that took advantage of early text-to-speech and spammed that in chat rooms to everyone's annoyance. Anyone who plays Valve games knows that this has never gone away and probably never will. So I may be in the crowd more jaded and less receptive to some aspects of moderation. I literally enjoy voice line spamming in video games. I do think it should be appreciated when these websites do put some effort into combating it, though. The reality is, as the disclaimer always says, they cannot control how users use their website. In the court of public opinion, though, it seems like most people do hold the websites accountable for what the users do, especially when what the users do is a crime or a social faux pas. One such case of this ringing true relatively recently has been the website Omegle shutting down after a lawsuit being settled. Okay, so basically we have the Omegle website, what it looks like right now, or has for, I think, the last couple of months. I'm really late to this, I'm sorry. But I'm just going to read through it. You can skip over this part if you want to. But we got this tombstone here, Omegle, 2009 to 2023. And then we got this quote from C.S. Lewis, Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, or they do so with the approval of their own conscience. And then we get another one from Douglas Adams. In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move. That's agreeable. All right. And then we have here the body of it. I'll read the whole thing. Like I said, you can skip over it if you want to. I will put a marker on there, or a timestamp, hopefully. Dear strangers, from the moment I discovered the internet at a young age, it has been a magical place for me, growing up in a small town relatively isolated from the larger world. It was a revelation how much more there was to discover, how many interesting people and ideas the world had to offer. As a young teenager, I couldn't just waltz onto a college campus and tell a student, let's debate moral philosophy. I couldn't walk up to a professor and say, tell me something interesting about microeconomics. But online, I was able to meet those people and have those conversations. I was also an avid wiki editor. I contributed to open source software projects, and I often helped answer computer programming questions posed by people many years older than me. In short, the internet opened the door to a much larger and more diverse and more vibrant world. I'm going to increase the size real quick. I got bad eyes. And then I would have otherwise been able to experience. It enabled me to be an active participant in and contributor to that world. All of this helped me to learn and to grow into a more well-rounded person. Moreover, as a survivor of childhood rape, I was acutely aware that any time I interacted with someone in the physical world, I was risking my physical body. The internet gave me a refuge from the fear. I was under no illusion that only good people use the internet, but I knew that if I said no to someone online, they couldn't physically reach through the screen and hold a weapon to my head, or worse. I saw the miles of copper wires and fiber optic cables between me and other people as a kind of shield, one that empowered me to be less isolated than my trauma and fear would have otherwise allowed. I launched Omegle when I was 18 years old, and still living with my parents. It was meant to build on the things I loved about the internet, while introducing a form of social spontaneity that I felt didn't exist elsewhere. If the internet is a manifestation of the global village, Omegle was meant to be a way of strolling down a street in that village, striking up conversations with the people you ran into along the way. The premise was rather straightforward. When you used Omegle, it would randomly place you in a chat with someone else. These chats could be as long or as short as you chose. If you didn't want to talk to a particular person for whatever reason, you could simply end the chat and, if desired, move on to another chat with someone else. It was the idea of meeting new people, distilled down to its almost platonic ideal. Building on what I saw as the intrinsic safety benefits of the internet, users were anonymous to each other by default. This made chats more self-contained. It made it less likely that a malicious person would be able to track down someone else off-site after their chat ended. I didn't really know what to expect when I launched Omegle. Would anyone even care about some website that an 18-year-old kid made in his bedroom in his parents' house in Vermont, with no marketing budget? But it became popular almost instantly after launch, and it grew organically from there, reaching millions of users daily. I believe this had something to do with meeting new people being a basic human need, and with Omegle being among the best ways to fulfill that need. As the saying goes, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Over the years, people have used Omegle to explore foreign cultures, to get advice about their lives from impartial third parties, and to help alleviate feelings of loneliness and isolation. I've even heard stories of soulmates meeting on Omegle and getting married. Those are only some of the highlights. Unfortunately, there are also lowlights. Virtually every tool can be used for good or evil. And that is especially true of communication tools, due to their innate flexibility. The telephone can be used to wish your grandparents or grandmother happy birthday, but it can also be used to call in bomb threats. There can be no honest accounting of Omegle without acknowledging that some people misused it, including to committing unspeakable, heinous crimes. I believe in the responsibility to be a good Samaritan, and to implement reasonable measures to fight crime and other misuse. That is exactly what Omegle did. In addition to the basic safety feature of anonymity, there was a great deal of moderation behind the scenes, including state-of-the-art AI operating in concert with a wonderful team of human moderators. Omegle punched above its weight in content moderation, and I'm proud of what we accomplished. Omegle's moderation even had a positive impact beyond the site. Omegle worked with law enforcement agencies and the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children to help put evildoers in prison where they belong. There are people rotting behind bars right now, thanks in part to evidence that Omegle proactively collected against them and tipped the authorities off to. All that said, the fight against crime isn't one that can ever truly be won. It's a never-ending battle that must be fought and refought every day. And even if you do the best job it is possible for you to do, you may make a sizable dent, but you won't win, in an absolute sense of that word. That's heartbreaking, but it's also a basic lesson in criminology, and one that I think the vast majority of people understand on some level. Even superheroes, the fictional characters that our culture imbues with special powers as a form of wish fulfillment in the fight against crime, don't succeed at eliminating crime altogether. In recent years, it seems like the whole world has become more ornery. Maybe that has something to do with the pandemic or with political disagreements. Whatever the reason, people have become faster to attack and slower to recognize each other's shared humanity. One aspect of this has been the constant barrage of attacks on communication services, Omegle included, based on the behavior of malicious subset of users. To an extent, it is reasonable to question the policies and practices of any place where crime has occurred. I've always welcomed constructive feedback, and indeed, Omegle implemented a number of improvements based on such feedback over the years. However, the recent attacks have felt anything but constructive. The only way to please these people is to stop offering the service. Sometimes they say so explicitly and avowedly, other times it can be inferred from their acting of setting standards that are not humanly achievable. Either way, the net result is the same. Omegle is the direct target of these attacks, but their ultimate victim is you. All of you out there who have used or would have used Omegle to improve your lives and the lives of others. When they say Omegle shouldn't exist, they are really saying that you shouldn't be allowed to use it, that you shouldn't be allowed to meet random new people online. That idea is the anathema to the ideas I cherish, specifically to the bedrock principle of a free society that, when restrictions are imposed to prevent crime, the burden of those restrictions must not be targeted at innocent victims or potential victims of crime. Consider the idea of the society ought to force women to dress modestly in order to prevent rape. One counter-argument is that rapists don't really target women based on their clothing, but a more powerful counter-argument is that, irrespective of what rapists do, women's rights should remain intact. If society robs women of their right to bodily autonomy and self-expression based on the actions of rapists, even if it does so with the best of intentions in the world, then society is practically doing the work of rapists for them. Fear can be a valuable tool, guiding us away from danger. However, fear can also be a mental cage that keeps us from all the things that make life worth living. Individuals and families must be allowed to strike the right balance for themselves, based on their own unique circumstances and needs. A world of mandatory fear is a world ruled by fear. A dark place indeed. I've done my best to weather the attacks with the interest of Omegle users and the broader principle in mind. If something as simple as meeting random new people is forbidden, what's next? That is far and away removed from anything that could be considered a reasonable compromise of the principle I outlined. Analogies are a limited tool, but a physical world analogy might be shutting down Central Park because crime occurs there, or perhaps more provocatively, destroying the universe because it contains evil. A healthy, free society cannot endure when we are collectively afraid of each other to this extent. Unfortunately, what is right doesn't always prevail. As much as I wish circumstances were different, the stress and expense of this fight, coupled with the existing stress and expense of operating Omegle, and fighting its misuse are simply too much. Operating Omegle is no longer sustainable, financially nor psychologically. Frankly, I don't want to have a heart attack in my 30s. The battle for Omegle has been lost, but the war against the internet rages on. Virtually every online communication service has been subject to the same kinds of attack as Omegle, and while some of them are much larger companies with much greater resources, they all have their breaking point somewhere. I worry that, unless the tide turns soon, the internet I fell in love with may cease to exist. And in its place, we'll have something closer to souped-up version of TV, focused largely on passive consumption, with much less opportunity for active participation and genuine human connection. If that sounds like a bad idea to you, please consider donating to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, an organization that fights your rights online. For the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who used Omegle for positive purposes and to everyone who contributed to the site's success in any way. I'm sorry I couldn't keep fighting for you. I thank AM for opening my eyes to the human cost of Omegle. Sincerely, Leif K. Brooks, founder, Omegle.com LLC. And then he's got a link to the lawsuit. I'm really not going to read over this because I'm not really much of a legal person. I did essentially skim it for the main basic things, like the preliminary statements. I'll read those right now. Preliminary statement 1. This is a product liability case against the company that profits from procuring children for sexual predators. 2. Omegle is a free online chat room that randomly pairs strangers from around the world for one-on-one video chats, inviting users to talk to strangers. 3. As soon as two people are matched, they are immediately face-to-face with a stranger on their screens. 4. Omegle markets its product to children as young as 13, knowingly matches its child users with adults. 5. Omegle's most regular and popular use is for live sexual activity, such as online masturbation. Omegle employs no mechanisms to verify ages to prevent children from being matched with adults. Children cannot opt out from matching with adults, nor can adults opt out from matching with children. 6. Omegle is aware that users engage in sexual and masturbatory conduct on their platform. On its homepage, Omegle flouts the dangers of this product, acknowledging that Omegle users may not behave appropriately and that their moderation is not perfect enough to ban misbehaving users. 7. In approximately 2014, Omegle paired then 11-year-old AM with Ryan Scott Fordyce, Omegle Predator, who was in his late 30s at the time. 8. Over the next 3 years, the Omegle Predator forced AM to take and send naked photos and videos of herself engaging in sex acts of his choosing. He coerced AM to recording herself masturbating with her hands and objects, urinating, and engaging in other sexual acts. Sometimes he made AM perform for him and his friends. 9. The Omegle Predator also dispatched AM back onto Omegle to recruit other kids for him to abuse. 10. The Omegle Predator regularly threatened AM that if she reported to police or told anybody about their activities, he would share his trove of pictures and videos, she would get arrested. 11. In January 2018, the Omegle Predator's home was raided by law enforcement, and 3,055 files of child pornography were found on his device, including 220 images and videos of AM. He currently awaits sentencing. 12. Plaintiff seeks recovery against Omegle on her claims for A. Product liability arising out of defects in design and defects in warning. B. Negligence in design, warning, and instruction. And C. 18 U.S.C. 1595. I'll do that one real quick too. Facts, Omegle's product design. 17. Omegle is a free online website that randomly pairs users so they can live stream video chat with a stranger. 18. Originally launched in 2009, Omegle is one of the largest, most popular chat sites with users from countries all over the world and about 66 million monthly visits. At any given time, there are typically around 50,000 users online ready to chat. 19. Leif K. Brooks founded Omegle and remains CEO today. 20. According to data published by BBC, Omegle usage doubled during the pandemic between January 2020 and January 2021. 21. Omegle's innovation to the world of chatting apps is its complete user anonymity, designed to make connections quick, convenient, and discreet. The random users are identified as you and stranger. 22. Omegle's anonymized stranger matching is integral to its business model, encouraging its users to talk to strangers. There's a picture of their disclaimer thing. 23. Omegle is designed for users to cycle quickly through strangers. As soon as users tire of a stranger, Omegle connects them with. They can click a stop button and be transported onto a screen of a different user who likewise appears on their screen. 24. Omegle is often used for individuals seeking an immediate online sexual connection with strangers. 25. Within seconds of using Omegle, users are likely to come face-to-face with nude users, whether they want to or not. 26. Omegle acknowledges that this product is home to predators, but puts some onus on the users not to be preyed upon. Up through May 2021, its homepage read, "Predators have been known to use Omegle, so please be careful." 27. Omegle allows anybody to use its product and requires no registration, name, or age verification. Nor does it require users to register using the other industry standard verifiers such as email, phone number, or social media account. 28. Omegle's content moderation practices are reckless to the point of being altogether absent. Omegle's homepage provides that Omegle video chat is moderated, but no moderation is perfect. It provides in large lettering towards the bottom of the page, video is monitored. Keep it clean. Despite its claim of not perfect moderation, the site also confusingly labels its video chat button as the unmoderated section. 29. Omegle knows kids use its products and allows kids as young as 13 to do so, despite that being extraordinarily high probability that within just a couple of matches, a child is likely to be face-to-face with a masturbating adult. The sole warning for kids on Omegle's website: you must be 18 plus or 13 plus with parental permission and supervision to use Omegle. Omegle does not actually require children to state their age or date of birth to register for the product or to confirm that they have parental permission. The parental permission is legally deficient because parents cannot provide legal authorization for their children to become crime victims. 30. Unlike many other internet products, Omegle is accessible only through its own website. In contrast, applications uploaded through Marketplace like the App Store or Google Play, where consumers are verified, provide an additional check and balance to prevent abuse. 31. Omegle's revenue model appears derived from selling user and usage data by selling advertisement on its website. The advertisement generally for pornographic and adult webcam sites. For example, below is a screenshot of an Omegle. Okay, I'm not gonna see that. Frankly, there are predator issues in all online websites where there's a social aspect. People find workarounds even when systems are in place to prevent or mitigate most negative interactions. Social media as a whole has this dilemma of the fact that moderating human decision-making is not possible without either wholly taking away free communication options or spending probably millions in crafting software or AI to detect misuse and abuse, which can just as well be abused itself. Personally, after the era of internet I grew up on, for immediate problem solving, I think we should encourage parents to check their children's devices and actually check on their kids when they're using apps connected to the internet. Be it being in listening range while they're on Fortnite, or if they have a device with a camera, making sure it's being used appropriately, or that there's no strange applications installed on the devices. Most of the big and popular companies have parental guide settings, such as timers for when an Xbox can be played, or limiting only approved content to be shown. But like any person who has ever smoked weed out of a Dr. Pepper can or an apple, or played Halo 2 on school computers during school hours, there are obvious workarounds to cheese whatever security system exists to prevent you from doing something. So, I think plainly, having open conversation is almost always the best solution for anyone at increased risk to be abused or groomed. But even as a grown man, I've been saved a few times from a scam by something as simple as talking to a friend about something I was about to buy off an online marketplace, or talking to friends that stream about scammers. See something, say something type beat. In the case of online predators specifically, as a millennial who isn't ignorant of the dangers of the internet, it is baffling sometimes how adults are clueless of the dangers in general. Like we all have that family member who's still falling for phishing scams on Facebook, or the idiot clicking the links and messages from people they don't know. And let's be real here, most of us learn better after getting got. Ye old trial and error, if you will. Learning to not be trusting of strangers, but also trying to find the ability to detect when people are being genuine versus deceptive, so that we don't have to live isolated and or jaded lives. It becomes worse, though, because the fact is, when you are feeling isolated or jaded, this makes you significantly easier to prey upon for evil predatory people. More so if you're a kid, and even more so if you haven't encountered such things or don't have responsible people looking out for you. Seriously guys, inquire and ask questions, because oftentimes that leads to a change of perspective that can save people's lives. As for the case of the child predators, honestly don't know why convicted people have access to the internet, or at the very least have it extremely monitored. You should use report features appropriately, even if you aren't bothered by something, on a site like Omegle, because it literally could save someone else from being a victim. I think anyone who has used any of these video chat sites is aware of the barrage of dudes jacking off being one of the most common occurrences. When I was a teen, that was literally the thing that made me stop using these sites, like Omegle or Chat Roulette. I think even one site made a dick detecting bot to combat it to an extent that was fairly accurate far as I know. So fundamentally, this is why I think kids should not be on these sites, period, and that if you have kids or siblings, etc., you should make sure that they aren't wandering off to the cursed places on the internet. If not for the safety, for their sanity. Don't get me wrong, I don't think those dudes should be jacking off at the camera, but I must say, in my time on the internet, it's easier to not read messages than to ask someone not to send them, and double that for anything that is egregious and obviously in bad taste. Troll's gonna troll. asshole's gonna asshole. Also, to be clear, I'm not blaming the victims of groomers or casting shade at the families who have been preyed upon by online predators. I just mean that in general, the internet is a shared space with bad actors and predators. We live in a time where antisocial behaviors and misanthropic characters can have greater reach and effect on other people, just the same as good people can reach out and inspire too. Me personally, I feel relatively unaffected by my early online experiences. I think partially because I at least had one parent aware of my activity, and also because I am more in the camp of people who tends to not take things super personally or serious when a screen is involved, at least when it comes to online interactions. Don't get me wrong, I was jump scared by that maze game and stopped using the computer for a few weeks. But dudes beating their meat for the world to see on a website that was made for talking and connecting to the world kinda says more about them than whatever effect it has on me. It even says more about the state of the world in my opinion. We have this advanced technology that allows you literal lifetimes of information at your fingertips, with websites like YouTube that allow you to watch videos for free on how to do everything from some highly esoteric hobby to literal brain surgery. Videos to help you hear about how different people live their life in different cultures or with different needs, to hundreds of millions of hours of philosophy, religion, science, gaming, entertainment, vlogs, videos, you get the idea, waiting to be watched, made, learned about, argued about. But this dude wants to crank his hog at strangers. Seems like a gross misuse of a tool, don't you think? Realistically, all the websites that have any level interaction user to user will have to, or is facing the same issue Omegle is, just like he said. I think K. Brooks kinda summed it up best. Some people use these tools for good and some for evil. How many things in our lives can fall into this category of thing? That is fun and good, having crime take place with it or at it. How often do we just close said thing down or give up hope completely and abandon it? And more so, is it right to blame the websites for predatory users, even when they do some of the due diligence and prevention? My personal opinion is it makes more sense to hold the pedophiles liable for their actions, rather than take down a whole ass website that millions of people use without issue. But perhaps my perspective is just marred by the fact that I genuinely believe the internet is only an extension of what happens in the real world. And in its best or worst cases, amplifies all the worst and best aspects of humanity. Essentially, if there are monsters in the real world, there will be monsters on the internet. Genuinely, it should be easier to fight them on the internet, because unlike in real life, all their footprints in most cases are very trackable and very documented, down to every search and every IP address. But alas, the same struggle exists as in the real world. We only find out after victims have already been made, after the suffering has been started, and after the crime has been committed. And there's a general gray space between privacy versus having all that information out there free for everyone to judge. And all this simply stems from a basic principle most of us learned as kids. Don't talk to strangers. Yet, in spite of that, many of us talk to strangers on the daily, making great friends out of them. Some even find life partners or build careers. All the life journey stuff, accelerated via this tool. So I ask again, what do you think about using the internet to talk to strangers? Thank you for watching. This has been an Ira Take. If you thought or felt anything about this, please leave a comment. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave a dislike if you disliked it. Subscribe to help me grow, and make sure you eat your vegetables. Bye.